Whether it's Bond Girl, Dr. Quinn, or Queen of the miniseries, most people think of Jane Seymour as an actress.
She has a big bag of tricks, is very versatile, can go back and forth in different kinds of parts and roles, and people want to see more.
Others appreciate her intelligence.
This is one of the most beautiful women ever to walk on the face of the earth. But if she were just beautiful, she wouldn't be this successful, because she's beautiful and she's very, very smart.
Those who know her admire her abilities as an author and artist.
It's really just creative living. It's just about making the most of every moment, and that's really, I think, what she's all about.
Those who love her just love her.
We did develop a special friendship that, through all the ups and downs and changes in our lives, is still very valuable.
Jane Seymour appears to have it all, but it didn't come easily. She has outlasted a few bad marriages, she has overcome financial ruin, and she has thrived for more than 3 decades in a business that worships youth. Jane Seymour is a survivor.
I constantly am thinking of something new and different and something that I can do better. And I try not to live in the past, I try to live in today.
I want to see you throw a long one, Chris.
Okay.
The setting is current-day England, in the countryside near Bath.
Very good throw.
A lovely woman plays catch with her beautiful children on the grounds of her 14th century manor house. It looks like the set of a movie. But this is real life for Jane Seymour.
It's amazing. I mean, this is where all the family comes together. I mean, this is where you see everybody, like all my grandma's aunts, uncles, cousins.
It is a family born from the pieces of fractured relationships.
It's a dysfunctional Brady Bunch.
Caelan, Jane's stepson, is here along with 4 of Jane's children: Katie, Sean, Chris, and Johnny. Jane's husband James, her sisters Annie and Sally, and her mother Mika are just a few who have important roles in this extended family. Former spouses are still in the picture too.
I think it works out really well. I mean, initially, like anything, it's the adjustment of this family to that family and so on and so forth. But I think we do very well.
The roots of Jane's family tree are strong and deep. They were well established by the time she came into the world on February 15th, 1951.
She was Joyce Frankenberg. Joyce Penelope Wilhelmina Frankenberg is quite a mouthful, and that was their first child, so I think I was quite lucky to be Sally as the second.
Annie was the third and youngest. Theirs was a home filled with love, friends, and fun.
I used to spend a lot of time in their house with both these big kind of 1920s houses next door to each other in this rather silent suburban area in Wimbledon. And their house was always this sort of rollicking palace of fun and adventure and things happening all the time.
People came and we ate and we drank and we talked and listened to music, and we had a really fantastic upbringing, actually. It was a very good mixture, wasn't it?
It was wonderful. And we had fantastic parties.
Orchestrating the good times were the girls' mother Mika and their father John, a prominent doctor.
In my case, there were only 3 girls, so I suppose I got oldest son priority, and my father let me believe I could be anything I wanted to be.
He spent a lot of time with them, and he was brilliant. He just knew everything. You only had to ask Daddy, and he knew it.
Mika from Holland was a warm and wise presence. She had survived 3 years in an Indonesian concentration camp during World War II. Mika was compassionate and understanding.
My mother is really the strength of the family. She's an indomitable spirit. She is incredibly loving. She's very giving. She's a wonderful friend. She's just a great person, actually. She really understands the human spirit.
The girls loved to read and write plays. Their backyard in Wimbledon served as a stage for all kinds of activities. The Frankenberg home was a social center. Friends were included in the whirl.
Certainly she had the best possible family that she could, a magical one. I mean, really, I'm not exaggerating it. It was, for me personally, it was a great thing to be there. It was like living an endless storybook.
The Frankenbergs liked to travel, romping over Roman ruins or guiding a gondola on the Venetian canals. Jane and her sisters were exposed to a lot. Bullfights, castles, and trips to the beach were part of the adventure. They usually stayed with friends from other countries Mika had met during the war. In turn, the Frankenbergs served as hosts for guests who visited them. Yet they weren't spoiled. They were raised to be concerned and kind. They loved visiting people in the hospital on holidays, especially Jane.
Every Christmas Day we would go to the maternity ward and say hello to the sisters and the nurses who were working that day and see the Christmas babies. And Yes, she has, I think, always had an interest in medicine and science from that.
The Frankenbergs made the most of what they had, enjoying every minute.
Something else we used to do when we were younger. Giggle.
It's terrible.
Like idiots. Sorry.
Right.
It's another family trait. Jane does it too.
The fun and games turned serious when it came to dance. Jane aspired to be a ballerina like her idol, Dame Margot Fonteyn. At the age of 12, she was accepted at a special school for the Arts Educational Trust. Jane's friends were struck by her desire to be the best at everything she tried, but dancing meant the most to her.
We were very, very committed. We were sort of goody-goodies, really. We were just always, really passionate about what we were doing. We worked really hard. We wanted to please, really.
Jane was a good dancer. So good, she was chosen to perform in the Nutcracker in what would later become England's national ballet. It was her first professional appearance.
We were sort of 12 to 14 at that time, and that was quite something for us because we were so young. So, we were chaperoned, and then, our first real experience of makeup and our first pay packet, which was something like 8 shillings or something a week. It used to come in little brown envelopes. It was amazing, actually. So our first pay packet at the age of 12.
But a career as a ballerina wasn't to be. The cartilage in Jane's knee was damaged, and surgery wasn't possible. Her parents presented Jane with a sensible option.
When I hurt myself, they wanted me to quit and become a teacher. They wanted me to go immediately into teachers training college. And I went, no, I'm not a teacher, I'm a performer. And if I can't do this, I want to act.
We've never said no. But obviously, you wanted her to have an education as well, because, as you know, it's very difficult.
They thought that this was an ill-advised career move, but they never stopped me from doing anything, ever.
Jane had been trained in drama as part of her schooling, so she got off to a running start when at the age of 17, she changed her name. Joyce Frankenberg just wasn't memorable. Jane feared a connection to Frankfurter, or worse, Frankenstein. So she became Joya Johns, a name she registered with Actors Equity. But someone, Jane's not sure who, came up with something better. Jane Seymour, who was Henry VIII's third wife. It was a simple name that opened doors because it sounded familiar.
When Jane chose that name to be Jane Seymour, a lot of people who at that time hadn't heard of her would hear it and say, "Oh, haven't I heard of you? Weren't you in that production of The Wives of Henry VIII?" And they didn't even realise how silly they were being.
It took years to call her Jane, and I remember the first time when Sally and Anne started calling her Jane, I was very taken aback. It seemed absolutely absurd because she was Joyce somehow. Everything, the way she moved and her hair, the idea that she would change into Jane, it seemed impossible.
The name change coincided with another life-altering event in 1969. Sir Richard Attenborough, the esteemed actor and film director, picked Jane from hundreds of hopefuls and cast her as a chorus girl in Oh, What a Lovely War. It was a lucky break that would lead to love and marriage, and there, the fairy tale takes a turn. Jane Seymour was 17 when she appeared in her first major film, Oh, What a Lovely War. Hanging around the set was the director's son, Michael Attenborough. Jane had met him through friends a few years earlier.
I think he found her a bit what we in England call stuck up, but she isn't at all. And she found him young. So they weren't interested in each other at all.
But that changed as they got reacquainted. They fell in love.
We dated every spare minute. And in today's society, I would have probably lived with him and we would have discovered that it wasn't going to work and nobody would have, blinked an eyelash, But in those days, there was this whole thing, you don't have sex till you're married.
So in 1971, they wed. Jane was a 20-year-old woman, but still a girl at heart. As she settled into her role as a wife, Jane was getting parts in Britain that generated attention and led to the biggest break in her young career.
If you remember, I was a Bond girl. In England, I'm still a Bond girl. That's it. As far as they're concerned, that's all I ever did.
She was cast as Solitaire in Live and Let Die. It was Roger Moore's first appearance as 007.
Black Queen on the Red King, Miss...
Solitaire.
My name's Bond. James Bond.
I know who you are, what you are, and why you have come. You have made a mistake. You will not succeed.
Roger Moore was our hero, so it was fantastic. Because we'd seen him in a series called The Saint. We'd grown up watching that.
So good looking.
And he's such a fun guy as well.
Yeah.
Live and Let Die was a great credit on Jane's resume, but the one-dimensional part wasn't the end-all for her.
It was really nice for like the time that we were making the Bond film, but then after, and when it came out, but then it wasn't particularly good if you wanted serious acting roles.
Things weren't perfect on the home front either. Jane's marriage fell apart less than 3 years into it. She and Michael were just too young, more like brother and sister than husband and wife.
I felt I'd failed. I'd failed as a wife, and my parents had been married forever, and the Attenboroughs were married forever, and no one I knew had ever been divorced, so it was just, that was devastating. But, and Michael left me for someone else, so that wasn't too comfortable.
Added to that was a disastrous foray into the American film scene. Jane tested the Hollywood waters and was scared out of the business in short order by an aggressive producer.
It was the most horrible experience, and basically, now they call it sexual harassment. In those days, you couldn't talk about things like that. It was definitely the Hollywood couch. I definitely left that house feeling horrible. I couldn't talk to anyone. He threatened me and said that if I ever told anyone ever, that he would make sure I never worked again, ever.
Jane returned to England and settled into a new relationship. She started seeing one of her former husband Michael's friends, Geoffrey Planer. Jeep, his nickname, was an artist whose only interest in show business was Jane.
I'm not really into a lot of this stuff, so I knew she was well known. Of course, I knew her before she did her first bits. I don't want to be known. I'm not part of this world.
Jane and Jeep adored each other. Their relationship was more mature than Jane's first one. Jeep fit right into the Frankenberg circle of family and friends. Thanks to Jeep, Jane had the confidence and courage to return to the U.S. and give Hollywood a second chance.
It was my encouragement. I told her to go to the States. We were both going to go to LA, but I didn't really like LA, so we were beginning to probably drift apart that time.
Jane was achieving professional success. She was cast in a miniseries, Captains and Kings, and nominated for an Emmy in 1976. Work was Jane's focus, not her personal life. Yet Jane and Jeep married on a whim in 1977. Jane wore an Edwardian costume from The Four Feathers, a film she was making at the time. This romantic picture disguised reality. They had married with hopes of saving their relationship. They divorced a year later.
It just didn't work. I suppose he was a bit Mr. Seymour, I don't know, walking behind her. But he is a wonderful, wonderful man.
2 husbands had come and gone as Jane turned 27. But Michael and Jeep were Jane's friends forever.
I think she's an old-fashioned girl, actually, in a way. She's very loyal to the person that she's with, and I think she works on her relationships.
We've grown up together quite a lot, so it's difficult to just cut somebody out of your life, especially when I feel her family is very close, so you can't cut it out. So we sulked for a year or two and then started patching it up.
Jane moved on, working steadily, if not always on the best projects. A starring role in Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders made it hard for some to take her seriously.
Believe me, the network executives took her seriously. I mean, they didn't care that she was a cheerleader. They didn't care she was in Battlestar Galactica. They cared that she brought in ratings, and that's what she's always done.
Her beauty, which undeniably opened some doors, might have been a liability.
It's because she looks so pretty, I think. That people always, she's pretty, and that can be, sometimes for an actress, it can almost be a disadvantage sometimes.
It wasn't easy to put Jane in a box. She was becoming known for a lot of different things: period pieces, TV movies, good and bad, and theatrical films. Her choices may have been questionable, but any doubts about her acting chops were quieted when she sank her teeth into the meaty dual roles of Kathy and Kate Ames in the miniseries East of Eden.
I thought that was absolutely stunning. I thought she had the kind of the depth that Jane is capable of, a real quality of acting. And I thought the Bond was obviously very good, but it was a Bond part. But that she has a range and an ability, which was always there. She's very complicated.
She was nominated for another Emmy and won a Golden Globe. In the middle of this acting frenzy was a star turn in what would become a cult classic.
I was there for all the casting. That was great because every 20 minutes another gorgeous young woman would come in the room. But it was absolutely remarkable that when Jane came in, that was it.
On October 3rd, 1980, the film Somewhere in Time opened in movie theaters. It paired Jane Seymour and Christopher Reeve as lovers from different eras who were destined to be together.
The concept that the one, the person that you're supposed to love and be loved by, does exist.
We all responded very strongly to the script. It brings out the romantic in all of us as actors. I was certainly carried away by the script, and even more so by the location. I think Jane was too.
The film was shot at Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island, Michigan. The setting, a John Barry score, romantic story, and 2 attractive leads combined to create a fantasy audiences could only wish were real.
Christopher Reeve and I, it sparked. And the romance and the love and the passion and the innocence of that love and the sexual tension, it's all there on film.
All right. I thought I lost you.
Never, 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 never.
We had a wonderful working relationship because we would tease each other. We were able to improvise a lot, and that's a really good sign. When you're working well with another actor, you can improvise something. You have to trust the chemistry of the actors in order to let that happen and keep it in the film.
Somewhere in Time received negative reviews, but it developed a huge following that exists to this day. And like the characters in the film, Jane and Chris seemed destined to have met.
It was a very, very special time for both of us when we were filming that. And I think that in the most unthreatening way, clearly Chris and I love each other to this day. There was something special. And it's something that has, continued. And it's something that is in no way threatening to either his wife and family or my husband. Chris Reeve is my inspiration, actually. He makes me laugh, he makes me cry, and he makes me go, wow, every day.
I've lost touch with a lot of people I've made movies with, who I was close to, and we're talking now 22 years later, 23 years later almost, and we're just as good friends as we were when we made the film, and that's very rare and very precious.
When the movie wrapped, Jane started seeing David Flynn, a business manager who handled the financial affairs of Goldie Hawn and other celebrities. This coincided with Jane's return to the stage. She'd been on the boards years before in Hamlet, among other productions. This time, it was Broadway, playing Mrs. Mozart in the original production of Amadeus. David proposed to Jane during the show's run. They married in 1981. The third time was the charm, or so she thought at the time. Jane loved being stepmother to Jenny, David's young daughter. The family grew when Katie was born in 1982.
For someone like me who'd always been a little bit on the outside, I was never popular in school. I was always pursuing some sort of dream, whether it's acting or, painting or dancing or whatever. I always seemed to be a little bit separate. I now felt I belonged. I was part of the team. And it was just an amazing feeling to go there and to have that. And that came from having my first birth child.
Jane's life seemed perfect through the early 1980s. She appeared in one production after another, including The Scarlet Pimpernel and The Sun Also Rises. Jane was as bankable as she was beautiful.
I think it was Somewhere in Time, and I saw her in that and fell in love with her like everybody. And the only thing when I met her, she wasn't in period costumes, and that was distracting.
Tom Selleck was at the height of his fame from Magnum P.I. when he co-starred with Jane in 1984's Lassiter.
The person you see on the screen is never the person you meet, but there's always common denominators, and I think that was the case with Jane. She wanted to play a character who had a background in dance and was a dancer, and I just remember how hard she worked at that. For the amount of time that actual dancing was in the movie, she probably didn't have to, but it said a lot about her respect for the craft and the way she works on a character, how much time she actually spent on that, and that says a lot about her as a professional.
In 1985, Jane gave birth to Sean. She was 34, and going strong as wife, mother, actress, and author. In 1986, her Guide to Romantic Living was published. It promoted an image that was just too good to be true, but at the time, the book seemed like the right thing to do.
I gag when I think of it, and mercifully it's out of print, and the few copies that I still have I've kept for my children.
Jane returned to what she knew best. In 1988, she won an Emmy for her portrayal of opera diva Maria Callas in Onassis' Richest Man in the World. This was followed with a Golden Globe nomination for The Woman He Loved. Jane starved herself to look like Wallace Simpson, who said, "You can never be too rich or too thin."
She got so skinny, it was terrifying, but she looked frightening. So much like Wallace Simpson. But she can really get into the part.
I sort of shrunk pretty quickly. I was never in danger of being an anorexic or anything, because the minute I finished that part, I put weight on, and went back to being normal.
Jane was television royalty, unofficially anointed queen of the miniseries.
She really is the queen of the TV movies and miniseries. I don't think anyone, even today, has surpassed her in that role. She grabbed the title of queen and she's held on to it for a long time.
Well, I just figured, well, I'm queen of something and I'm working a lot and I get, nominated for and winning these prizes that everyone seems to think they want to have, and I'm getting to play wonderful roles.
Jane's crowning glory was in War and Remembrance. It was a multi-part follow-up to the epic Winds of War. Jane fought for and won the part of Natalie Jastrow Henry, an American woman sent to a death camp during World War II. The experience was very personal and profound.
When I started talking to my father about his cousins who died in Belsen, and doing the research with my mother, trying to get more out of her about what her experience was like, I don't think it was the facts that I heard from them that helped me as much as some sort of genetic predisposition. I think it was somehow in me to understand and know who Natalie was. And some parts you study, some parts you just are.
Shoots for Jane's films were family affairs.
The thing is, she loves to share, and she loves us coming along. If she's on location anywhere, before she had the children, 9 times out of 10 she would invite us to come and join her.
Jane took Katie and Sean wherever she went. They even had roles in the French Revolution.
When I was really little, I got to travel a lot with her before I went into school and everything, and saw a lot I probably wouldn't have the opportunity to see otherwise.
We were with her dad and stuff, and it's like, she's kissing another guy on TV, and it's like, what's going on? She explains to you it's all a movie and stuff.
I thought that this was bliss, total bliss. I thought I had a perfect husband, the perfect life, the perfect baby, and then I had another perfect baby.
But her bubble burst. Dr. John Frankenberg, Jane's father, died in 1990. Around the same time, her decade-long marriage fell apart. Jane hadn't seen it coming.
I was not happily married, but I didn't know at that time that I was unhappily married. I was absolutely devastated, and I had children, and it was the lowest point of my entire life. I felt that the world, that the whole planet had fallen out from underneath me, and that I was free falling to nowhere.
A divorce followed. Much of what Jane had earned during her 20 years as an actress went to her ex-husband, leaving her in dire financial straits and a desperate situation. No money, no job, no prospects.
And I then, all of a sudden, on a plate, was handed Dr. Quinn, just like a gift.
In 1992, Jane Seymour was a 3-time divorcee with 2 children to support. She was 41 years old and needed a job. Out of nowhere, Michaela Quinn came calling.
Here was a role that was written for me. I was that girl. I was that woman. I'd come west. My father was a doctor. I was raised in hospitals. She was the woman I would like to be. She was a woman who made a difference. She was a woman who wasn't perfect.
He has the fever. It came in the night.
Bring him inside. Great. Put him on the table.
He became feverish in the night. Jinyan asked me to come to you for help. I would not. I could not.
Colleen, bring my stethoscope.
Jinyan worked so hard to help the others. I did not notice his fever until it was too late.
Well, it's not too late.
His temperature is dangerously high.
You mix with sulfate of cognac.
Hey, stop! What are you doing to my grandson?
I have to listen to his heart.
There is no need.
Dr. Quinn allowed Jane to start her life over yet again.
She is plucky, yes. She's very plucky and very strong, doesn't feel sorry for herself.
The show was filmed on location minutes from Jane's house. It meant she could go to work each day and come home at night. Dr. Quinn was a dream job for Jane and the crew.
She looked around at those people and she felt the responsibility of being on time every day, not failing these people, making this show keep going over, because she knew that everybody takes this serious. They want the job. They want this. It was a job made in heaven to get that kind of steady work 10 months out of the year at the rate we were going, in a national park, on a family show, places where you could bring your dog on set. Who gets that job?
A large core of loyal viewers embraced Dr. Quinn and the issues it addressed, but critics sneered.
One of the reasons she was criticized is just because of the tone of Dr. Quinn. People thought it was kind of schmaltzy, throwback, Western. too much heart, not enough edge, and it's true. It had heart and it had no edge, and the viewers absolutely loved it.
Proving once and for all Jane's long-standing appeal. She was more popular in her 40s than she had been 20 years earlier.
Well, she's got a big bag of tricks. I'm not being facetious. I mean, you do a body of work, and I think you show many facets of your personality, and you are your own instrument. So the fact that she's had longevity in her career, I think, speaks a lot to who she is.
There was a new man in Jane's life, too. Someone who understood and appreciated her personal problems right from the start.
I asked her, I said, "So you look like you're in a lot of pain. What's going on?" And she looked at me like nobody had ever said anything like that to her before.
He just went straight into my soul, kind of got right in there, and I went, wow, this is someone who I'm, for some reason, unbeknownst to me, allowing to go to the deepest possible part of my being that even I have barely gone to.
James and Jane were friends, at first. The relationship eventually became more serious, which delighted James's son.
Well, she was a Bond girl. Yeah, all right, Dad, score.
When Jane and I got together, a very dear friend of mine said, "She has a lot of baggage." And I looked at my friend and I said, "And I don't?" I think that when you get married for the third or fourth time, that you have some idea of what you're getting into. And you have to, unless you're completely insane, realize that these people have had a life before. She's been alive. She's got kids. She's had relationships.
On May 15, 1993, Jane and James wed in front of friends and family, and the media which trained cameras on them from overhead.
You draw a lot of helicopters. And that I have never loved anything or anyone in this life more than I love you. And that I am the luckiest man alive.
I'm sorry about the helicopters and any future helicopters that may come my way. Out of great sadness, I have discovered greater joy than I knew existed in my life.
With that, Jane and James built a new family, including Katie, Sean, Kaylin, and Jenny, and the spouses that had come before.
I wanted to meet her ex-husbands, and I wanted her to meet the people that I've been involved with, and I think it's really important. I think it's vital for the children to feel like their mom and their dad loved each other, and they loved them, and they just, for some reason, grew apart.
I don't really feel like he's her stepdad, but even though I have a really good relationship with my father, it's really nice. I mean, Sean...
I have a great relationship with my dad.
Yeah, I mean, with
James too. Yeah.
It's very complicated, really, but actually, in essence, it really isn't complicated. If you just love the kids, you listen to them, and you let them know that they're free to communicate what's going on, and you encourage them to have a relationship with the other spouse or the other parent.
The only thing missing from Jane's newfound happiness was more children, with James. She had already miscarried once. In her words, it was a bit late in the day to conceive.
I really said to him, I will try everything, and we will try one last time, and if it works, fine, and if it doesn't, we'll just move on with our lives.
With help from science, Jane found herself pregnant with twins at the age of 44. Production on Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman went off without a hitch, even though the show's star, Jane Seymour, was pregnant with twins.
She got up to a 50-inch waist. Yes, she got up to 50 inches. We had to come up with all kinds of gear for, rigging her close so they would kind of grow with you.
But it was a difficult pregnancy. Jane was diagnosed with preeclampsia, a dangerous and sometimes fatal condition that diminishes the supply of blood to the fetus, among other things. The situation was kept from her. Jane's husband didn't want her to worry and make it worse.
I never told Jane that she was in that condition, and she never knew it, and she just sailed right through it. Later, when she found out, I think that she was a little concerned about it.
To the credit of my doctor and my husband, they all thought not to tell me because I was so radiantly happy, and I had these babies, and I was just full of love and just full of joy, that why take that magical moment away?
Johnny and Chris Keach were born on November 30th, 1995. Johnny was named for Jane's father, as well as family friend Johnny Cash. Chris for another special person in Jane's life.
It's spelled differently, but I understand that she named him after me, which is a great honor.
The boys brought new life to the whole family.
They're little hellions. They're great. They're sweethearts. They're just, they're the kind of things that bring a family together in a lot of ways as well. But I couldn't ask for anything better.
They're so adorable, and I love reading with them and like
They're so funny too.
And just I don't know, like showing them experiences that you've had too. You know what I mean? Like kind of in like taking them to like Toys R Us or like Santa.
Johnny and Chris became the Gerber babies of the 1990s. Their images used to sell food and other products.
Research shows that easy-to-eat adult foods may not provide all the nutrition they need. Many are not as good as these baby foods in providing valuable minerals like zinc, so important in developing a child's immune system. Don't let a milestone become a mistake by starting adult foods too early. Besides, don't they grow up too fast anyway?
And Jane became a source of hope and humor for older mothers.
People say, how do you stay young? How do you look young? Do you exercise? Do you do this? Do you do that? No, actually, I'm frantically running after these little guys, and I'm surrounded by young moms, and I just don't think of myself as an old mom, except when I can't carry them because my back aches or something.
As everything finally fell into place for Jane, Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman was canceled by CBS in 1998. It had been a Saturday night staple for parts of 6 seasons. Outraged fans mounted a campaign to keep it on the air, but it wasn't to be.
We had a reunion recently, and everybody showed up. And, the fans of Dr. Quinn, the ones that are vocal and that go on the internet and belong, are an extraordinary group of people. And they really believe that an hour of quality television that mattered to them, that was part of their lives, was taken away from them.
Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman left the air in 1998, but ran in syndication and was seen in almost 100 countries as the year 2000 passed. 2 Dr. Quinn TV movies kept Jane Seymour busy. But as a middle-aged actress, she knew she'd have to pursue other interests.
My days as ingenue are, I'm not going to be the lead in some movie about a bunch of teenagers. I'll be the mom.
She became an author of children's books, almost by accident.
There were about 16 of us having lunch, and we were talking about cats. And we all, I don't know why the conversation got on, and we had some napkins, and we drew pictures of, passed it round, and everybody had to be what cat you were. And I'd made them into a little book, and I thought, well, this is fun. Let's have a cat family.
The Keach's feline alter egos are all represented. Jane is Lady Jane, James, Big Jim, and Kaylin?
KK Cool Cat. I found that pretty amusing.
The books grew to a set of 8. Jeep illustrated them all.
Well, this is not the sort of thing you do with your ex-wife, really, is it?
In addition to those collaborations, Jane went solo with another of her loves, painting. She produced dozens of canvases, which commanded thousands of dollars, and still do.
It's a joy, actually. And she has, like with her painting, she's so good at art, and she has such joy. It's her way of relaxing, is doing her painting. And she's good at it at the same time.
Her activities and interests are supported by and shared with James. The two make documentaries. The most recent, an African measles initiative for the Red Cross.
I don't think Jane is the boss, no. And I don't think she would say that I'm the boss. I think that we're a team. And teams have people playing key positions that they do real well.
They're not dreamers, they're doers. They dream of things and then they actually do them. And that's the most wonderful thing, because there are very few people who can actually do that, I think.
Jane turned 50 in 2001. There was a lot to celebrate, including a new career. She was hired to design clothes for Crossing Point, a direct mail catalog business. Jane's collection of women's apparel was an unqualified success. A year later, Jane was approached by Saks department stores to develop a line of housewares and gifts which will feature her art. In addition, a line of children's clothes with characters from her books is on the way.
Now, I'm being asked to do it on a wider scale, and I'm sure a lot of people say, oh God, why does she have to do that now? Does she have to do everything? And, no, I don't have to, but I enjoy it, and it's not hurting anybody. And if somebody else likes it and they want to buy it, and it, gives other people pleasure, I'm thrilled. It's great.
It looks easy. All of these things look easy, and you see, oh yes, lots of money, and it's a film star and this sort of thing, but it's not at all easy. It's very difficult. Lots of ups and downs.
Jane isn't perfect. She's made mistakes and acknowledges them.
I think I'm pretty honest about about myself.
I don't want to waste time. I don't want to do things that are that I don't have my heart in. And what's amazing about Jane is that without falling off a horse and breaking your neck, she somehow always knew that.
I have to pinch myself, actually, because it's like I put this whole new life. It's pretty darn good. I just feel like I've just begun. I just feel like now I'm ready to really do what I can do.